Hello and a very warm welcome to Front Page, only on the AIM network, India's definitive media organization and voice on everything AI and technology. It's a pleasure to have you with us on the show. Well, on the show today, we have Jensen Huang, who talks about a structural shift which potentially might put Indian IT services under the pump. And then, of course, we have Mark Zuckerberg, who has suffered a hard $80 billion lesson. And then, of course, we have director Dr. V. Kamakoti gracing us on Front Page with his inimitable insights. This and a lot more. Here are the headlines. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang signals a structural shift from SaaS to agent as a service at GTC 2026, where autonomous AI agents replace execution workflows, putting traditional IT services models under pressure. Nvidia has overtaken Google as the largest contributor on Hugging Face, signaling a strategic pivot from chips to owning the open source AI agent ecosystem through platforms like NemoClaw. The $80 billion dream is over. Meta has officially shut down its VR Metaverse platform Horizon Worlds after marking a strategic shift from hardware-led virtual worlds to AI-driven platforms as user adoption failed to materialize. Accenture's strong AI-driven bookings highlight rising enterprise demand, but modest 3 to 5% growth guidance signals delayed revenue conversion and emerging pricing pressure across the IT sector. US prosecutors allege $2.5 billion worth of AI server diversion to China via shell firms, fake labels and dummy hardware, raising major national security concerns and exposing vulnerabilities in global AI supply chains. Director Dr. V. Kamakoti outlines a bold vision for India's self-reliance, transforming IIT Madras into a global powerhouse for indigenous chips, 3D printed rockets and AI-driven language translation for rural students. Everyone applauded without actually processing what was just said. At GTC 2026, Jensen Huang rewrote the future of enterprise software in just one line. Every SaaS company will become an AaaS company. A statement which hints at a product shift maybe, but it's not. It's actually the collapse of a business model because SaaS is built around tools. One logs in, configure workflows, assign people, and manage execution. AaaS turns this sequence on its head. Now this means that AI agents don't wait for instructions, they don't follow fixed workflows and don't need constant human input. They conversely now reason, act and complete tasks end to end, which of course changes everything. Enterprise software has usually worked in a fairly simple way. Software defines the workflow, people carry it out, and services firms scale that very work. That's the model companies like TCS, Infosys and Wipro turned into massive businesses. A pyramid of sorts. A few people shaping the system at the top and thousands carrying the execution at the bottom. Now, that very structure starts to look very different once agents enter the picture, because this is the part they handle especially well. Execution at scale. And once that begins to happen, the bottom of the pyramid doesn't just get smaller, it actually starts to disappear. And that is what makes this moment different from the ones before it. Let me kind of shed light on that. Cloud didn't wipe out services. It created a whole new layer of implementation work. RPA didn't wipe out services either. It automated parts of the job inside existing engagements. Then, of course, we talk about low code, which didn't wipe out services. Yes, you got that right. It actually widened the circle of people who could build software. But AaaS changes the equation on a much deeper level, because this is no longer about making the work faster or lighter. No, it's actually about removing the need to start that work in the first place. The client doesn't call Infosys because the need to is no longer relevant. And this is where the picture gets even clearer. Nvidia is woven right through this shift. It's selling the infrastructure that runs these agents. It's building the frameworks around them like OpenClaw. And it's adding the security stack as well through NemoClaw. So taken together, Nvidia is starting to look like the underlying system for this entire agent-driven economy. At the same time, it's also supplying the compute that keeps it running, which means it isn't really competing with SaaS companies in the usual sense. It's actually becoming part of the foundation they all depend on. And that gives it enormous influence over the economics of everything being built above of it. Then there is, of course, one line here that should make people in India sit up and pay attention. Jensen Huang didn't mention India even once. And the reason he didn't need to is fairly obvious. Because if SaaS works the way he says, works the way he says it will, then the basic model on which large-scale IT services was built starts to come under very real significant pressure. Not all at once, but in a structural manner. The real issue now is whether Indian IT can move up the value chain quickly enough, because once execution begins to get automated at scale, the part that once created the most employment starts to come under pressure. And here, of course, if you were waiting for it, is the front page take. This is not the death of Indian IT, but it does point to the weakening of the model that built it. Because the future of enterprise software is no longer tools plus workflows plus human execution. It is, on the other hand, outcomes delivered by autonomous systems. And in that world, value begins to move toward who owns the agent, who controls the data, and who defines the outcome, not who carries out the task. And once you connect those dots, the direction becomes pretty clear. Agents are replacing execution, Nvidia is powering the shift, and enterprise software is being rewritten from the ground up. So the only question left is, who moves fast enough to stay relevant? Please do let us know in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. Nvidia has just made a very serious strategic move, and a lot of people are still looking at it the old way. Most of the market still sees Nvidia as a chip company, a notion which is fast becoming outdated, because what the company is becoming now looks much bigger than all of that. It is starting to resemble the operating system for artificial intelligence, and one of the clearest signs of that has just come in. According to Clement DeLong, Nvidia has now moved past Google as the largest organization on Hugging Face with nearly 4,000 contributors. For a long time, open source AI had a fairly familiar structure. Google was a major contributor, Meta pushed open models like Llama, Hugging Face became the central hub for the ecosystem. Nvidia was not really seen as the company leading that conversation at all. That has now clearly changed, and it hasn't changed by chance. This has been a very deliberate, curated build. Because while most people were waiting for Jensen Huang to unveil the next chip story at GTC 2026, he made a much quieter move that would matter just as much. He launched NemoClaw. We've of course covered this extensively, so please do check out all our stories on this. It is actually an open platform for AI agents. This is where the story actually changes course. Nvidia already dominated the first era of AI, training models, CUDA, GPUs, which has been at the Nvidia bedrock of the old strategic edge. But the market is seeing a change from training to inference, from building models to running them, from chatbots to agents. And in this new world, Nvidia's old strength and leverage gets weaker because Google is building its own chips. Amazon is building its own chips. And of course, we have startups who are optimizing inference. So Jensen has done something unexpected. He has decided to go open. At first glance, this looks generous. Free software, open platforms, community contributions. But it's not generosity. It's a lot more strategic than meets the eye. Because if Nvidia can get every developer, every startup, every enterprise to build agents on its platform, then it doesn't matter which model wins, which company dominates, or for that matter, which chip runs underneath Nvidia. It actually still stays dominant in the middle of it all. This is the modus operandi when Google gave away Android to own mobile distribution. Microsoft bundled software to own the operating OS layer. And now, of course, Nvidia is doing it for AI agents. And here's the deeper insight. Open source doesn't create monopoly. It creates fragmentation. Thousands of companies build. No single company dominates. No one gets powerful enough to bypass Nvidia. That's the end goal. Because Nvidia doesn't want a world where one OpenAI, one Google, one Anthropic gets big enough to control pricing or, for that matter, build their own chips. So instead, Nvidia is making sure everyone builds, no one wins completely, and Nvidia stays essential. Clearly, as you can see, this is definitely about control. The control of how agents are built, deployed, and where compute flows. So if NemoClaw becomes standard, then Nvidia doesn't just power AI. It actually defines how artificial intelligence works. And here it is, the front page take. The most important Nvidia story right now is not chips, it's actually distribution, because the company that owns the platform, the developer ecosystem, and the deployment layer doesn't need to win every model race. It just needs to stay in the middle of it all. If you connect the dots, the picture emerges. Nvidia dominated training. It is now targeting inference. And it is using open source to control the agent layer. And with one move, it may have just overtaken Google in the most important battlefield ahead, the open source AI ecosystem. Please do let us know what you think about this development in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, please. And always remember, think AI, think AIM. So on the one hand, Nvidia is going all in on open source to stay at the center of the AI ecosystem. On the other, Meta, ironically, one of the biggest contributors to open source AI, just walked away from an $80 billion bet. One company is repositioning for the next wave. The other just paid for a very expensive lesson, because Meta has officially shut down its VR Metaverse. And this is what an $80 billion mistake looks like. Now, of course, everybody is saying, what's the point of Meta without the Metaverse? Because the company that literally named itself to chase a virtual future has just shut it down. 15th of June is the final shutdown date. And just like that, the biggest technology bet in history comes to an end. To jog your memory, let me take you back to 2021. Mark Zuckerberg made a $1 billion promise. 1 billion users, hundreds of billions in digital commerce, a whole new internet. Instead, at its peak, Horizon Worlds had just 200,000 users. So for context, a single popular game on Roblox gets more traffic than Meta's entire metaverse ever did. Now here's where it gets extremely painful. Since 2020, Reality Labs has burnt $80 billion. Ouch. In Q4 2025 alone, $955 million in revenue, $6 billion in losses, which means for every $1 Meta made, it spent more than $6. So what did $80 billion actually build? Legless avatars that became memes. Empty worlds where 91% of spaces had fewer than 50 visitors. Brand experiments like the Wendyverse that nobody really cared about, and I believe nobody would even remember. And a product that never became a habit. The idea definitely wasn't wrong. I think maybe the execution was. Meta tried to force the future through VR headsets. So when users were already living that metaverse on Fortnite, for example, GTA Online and Roblox, these platforms did something Meta had not. They were fun first. They didn't ask users to buy hardware. They didn't start with empty worlds. They actually built communities first and economies later. What did Meta do? It unfortunately did the opposite. It built the world and waited for people to show up. And we all know people did not. Let us, of course, not misread this as a plain shutdown. It may be a strong pivot, because while the metaverse was collapsing, something else exploded: AI. By 2025, Zuckerberg had already cut Metaverse budgets by 30%, laid off teams, and started hiring aggressively from OpenAI and Apple. In 2026, the message is Meta is no longer chasing virtual worlds, it's chasing intelligence. And here, of course, is the front page take. So this is what an $80 billion lesson looks like, painful and brutal. The future doesn't arrive just because you invest in it. It arrives when users embrace and adopt it. Meta tried to build the future top down. The winners have built it bottom up. And now the company that once bet everything on VR is left with a mobile app, competing with the very platforms it tried to replace. Clearly, the metaverse didn't die. Meta just wasn't the one to build it. Please do let us know what you think about this in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, and subscribe, please. And always remember, think AI, think AIM. Accenture's latest numbers look strong at first glance. Revenue came in at $18.04 billion, up 8% in dollar terms. Bookings hit a record $22.11 billion. So yes, the headline looks good. But if you stay with the headline, you might miss the real story. Because beneath those numbers, there is a much bigger question which is simmering. How much of this is genuine operating strength, and how much of it is the market still trying to price in the promise of AI? If you're ready, let's get into it. Here's what just happened. Julie Suite came in with $43 billion in first half bookings, and 41 clients are now spending more than $100 million a quarter. So the demand is clearly there, but then you look at the revenue guidance and it only moves to about 3 to 5%, And that's where the question begins. Because if companies are spending this aggressively on AI, why isn't revenue moving faster? The answer seems to be that the demand is arriving faster than the delivery. The deals are being signed, yes, but turning those deals into live working systems is taking time. There's integration to do, data to clean up, cloud systems to prepare, and all of that slows down the journey from real excitement to revenue. So what you're seeing here is not a lack of interest. It's actually the weight of complexity showing up after the sale. Now, let's talk about the ripple effect. The nifty IT crowd, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, caught a breath of fresh air on this news. The market seems to think the worst is behind us. That may be true, but it doesn't mean everyone gets through this in the same shape. Accenture was quite clear that it is taking market share, and that matters because this is not one of those moments where the whole industry rises together. Some firms are pulling ahead, others are being left behind. And Julie Suite's message on AI was pretty clear as well. There is no longer being treated as a separate add-on. It is actually becoming part of the core stack, which means any IT firm still trying to package very basic AI capability as something special may find that approach getting harder to sustain. Clients are becoming more exacting. They are less interested in the language around AI and much more focused on what actually improves. That definitely shifts the pressure straight onto execution. And the standard there is rising very quickly. And of course, you can see that pressure showing up in how Accenture is changing itself from the inside. The clearest signal really is the people. The company has not laid off. It's actually grown. Accenture now has 786,000 employees, and around 85,000 of them are trained as AI professionals. It has also trained 192,000 employees on agentic AI, and in some cases, AI usage is now being reflected in performance reviews. That tells you this is no longer sitting off to the side as an experiment. It is actually now being pushed into the working core of the company. At the same time, Accenture is putting $5 billion into acquisitions. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the front page take. Enterprise AI is clearly real, and the money going into it is real as well. But what this quarter shows is that the change is layered, slow in parts, and much heavier than the early hype suggested. A lot of it comes down to the less glamorous work, rebuilding ERP systems, cleaning data foundations, strengthening cybersecurity, and making old systems usable in a new environment. Let us not mistake this for a sudden windfall for the IT sector. No, let's not do that. Unfortunately, it seems more like a long, uneven grind. Accenture looks better placed than most, for sure. A lot of others still seem to be catching up. So it's worth being careful here. Record bookings do not automatically mean instant acceleration. The demand is real, but it doesn't move evenly, and it doesn't turn into growth overnight. Please do let us know in the comments below. Is your favorite IT stock leading this shift or still trying to catch up? This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. A man walks into a warehouse with a hairdryer, not to fix a machine or move a shipment. According to the United States prosecutors, he used it to peel serial number labels off real AI servers and stick them onto fake ones. And if that allegation sticks, no pun intended, this may be one of the boldest hardware diversion schemes we've seen in the middle of the global chip fight. The US has now unsealed charges against 3 people linked to Supermicro, including co-founder Yi Xian, Wally Liao, accusing them of helping divert about $2.5 billion worth of US AI servers to China in breach of export control laws. Prosecutors say at least $510 million worth of servers were diverted between late April and mid-May 2025 alone. Liao and Ting Wei, which is Willy's son, have been arrested. Rui Sang, Stephen Chang, remains a fugitive. Of course, one thing needs to be stated very categorically. These are only allegations. An indictment is not a conviction, and under US law, the defendants are presumed innocent unless proven guilty. But if prosecutors can prove what they are alleging, the scale of this is extraordinary. So according to the Justice Department, this allegedly centered on high-performance AI servers assembled in the United States using export-controlled American technology. Prosecutors say the orders were placed through a Southeast Asia-based intermediary, identified in court papers as Company 1, so that the transaction looked legitimate on paper. From there, the servers were then allegedly routed through Taiwan and parts of Southeast Asia, repackaged into unmarked boxes, and then sent on to customers in China without the export licenses required under United States law. To make that work, prosecutors say false documents and false communications were used to present the Southeast Asian company as the real end user. The US says that was not the real destination. The real destination was China. And then, of course, the case takes an even stranger turn. The Justice Department says that the defendants also staged thousands of dummy servers, physical, non-working replicas, so that compliance checks would show machines apparently sitting in warehouses when, according to prosecutors, the real export control servers had already been moved onward to China. Prosecutors also say surveillance footage showed Sun and another broker using a hairdryer to remove and reattach labels and serial numbers so those dummy units could pass inspection. So clearly, this was not, at least according to the indictment, a simple paperwork dodge. It was a physical deception operation built around AI infrastructure. This goes straight to the center of the US-China struggle over advanced AI. The United States has placed export restrictions on advanced AI chips and servers going to China because, well, those systems are seen as strategically important for military use, surveillance, and national security. The Justice Department said those restrictions exist because the computing power inside advanced AI accelerator hardware creates what the US considers an unacceptable national security risk if it reaches China. So when the prosecutors allege that the billions of dollars worth of AI servers may have been diverted anyway, This moves far beyond a corporate scandal. It becomes a national security case. That is exactly how US officials have framed it. The Justice Department says the alleged scheme relied on false documents, dummy inspections, and transshipment routes to hide the true destination of restricted AI technology. Now, of course, the FBI. The FBI said controlling the export of advanced US AI systems is essential to protecting national security. Supermicro is not a chip maker in the mold of Nvidia. It is one of the world's most important AI server manufacturers. And that distinction definitely matters. And here's why. Because Nvidia may design the chips, but companies like Supermicro turn those chips into full server systems that cloud providers, enterprises, labs, and hyperscalers can actually deploy. That makes server manufacturers a critical choke point in the AI supply chain. Multiple reports noted that while the government did not identify the exact chips involved, Nvidia dominates the AI chip market and is a major supplier to Supermicro. Nvidia said compliance with export laws remains a top priority and added that unlawful diversion of controlled US computers to China is, in its words, and here I quote, a losing proposition across the board, end quote. So, as we can understand, this is not some side note to the AI boom. This is actually the infrastructure layer of the AI boom itself. And according to prosecutors, that supply chain may have been leaking some of its most sensitive systems into China. Supermicro itself has not been charged. The company said it had been informed that an indictment involving 3 individuals associated with it had been unsealed, but that Supermicro is not named as a defendant. It is also said Liao and Chang have been placed on administrative leave and that its relationship with contractor's son was terminated immediately. The company, of course, has added that the alleged conduct would make a difference and violate its own policies and compliance controls. And it said it has been cooperating with the government's investigation. That distinction, I guess, is important, pertinent, and it matters because at this stage, this is not a criminal case against Supermicro as a company for sure, but it is a criminal case against individuals who are linked to it. But that does not mean investors will simply, brush this aside. Markets have reacted quickly. Reuters has reported that Supermicro shares fell about 8% in after-hours trading after the indictment became public. Quite obvious, I guess. Yeah, that reaction is definitely justified. Other reports suggested the decline was even steeper at certain points. And that reaction is not difficult to understand. Because even without charges against the company itself, this case raises very difficult questions about internal controls, compliance, oversight, and how hard it really is to police the movement of AI hardware in a market where demand is enormous and the incentives are intense. And here, of course, is the front page take. This story highlights something much bigger. It raises the possibility that billions of dollars worth of restricted AI infrastructure may have moved through a crucial server supply chain using shell company orders, false documents, dummy servers, and staged inspections. If that is what happened, then the AI boom has very clearly entered a new phase, one where smuggling risks, compliance failures, and national security concerns are now part of the picture. And it also raises a harder question for Washington, if they are listening. Can the United States actually enforce the export rules it writes? Because once AI servers become strategic assets, every shipment carries way more than just commercial value. It actually starts to carry geopolitical weight. Please do let us know, what do you think about this really extraordinary news in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. Let's take a moment and reflect. A startup every 3 days, more than 500 startups incubated. 53,000 crore rupees in combined valuation, 2 unicorns, 1 IPO, a 600 crore rupees deep tech fund, and now an advanced automotive translational research center at Tamil Nadu, Knowledge City. We are proudly referring to rockets, electric, aircraft, AI systems, indigenous chips, quantum communication, software-defined vehicles. Wow. And what stands out is this. All of it is coming out of one campus. Yes, we are talking about IIT Madras, a campus that seems to be buzzing with activity all the time. And what really catches your attention here is where all of this effort is going. For a long time, as we know, India was known for sending talent out into the world. What places IIT Madras are trying to do is change that very equation by creating an ecosystem where talent can stay, build, and scale from India to the world. And at the center of that wonderful effort is the gentleman leading it. We're joined today by Dr. V. Kamakoti, the director of IIT Madras. Sir, a huge honor to have you with us on Front Page. Welcome to the show.
Namaste.
Namaskar, sir. Truly an honor. Sir, of course, I would like to first start off with this. Must be fascinating, right? That to shape this journey and what's going through your mind when you look at the scale of what's being built.
Yeah, so it is something like everything that you achieve, you start seeing something more.
Nice.
So that's how the journey is happening. So what I thought was a very complex problem, say 1 year before, now seems to be a trivial problem, but that has opened up many more complex problems, right? And so challenges are many, and we need to progress in this direction. We took a conscious decision that as IIT Madras, we will work on translational research. And this happened at least 2 decades before, where we set up the IIT Madras Research Park, and which is just adjacent to our campus. And then we have this wonderful ecosystem of incubation. We have set up what we call as an innovation and entrepreneurship stack, where any student with an idea can convert it to a design, to a prototype, to a startup, get incubated, and we also mentor them to become a unicorn. So we're very happy to tell you about the journey of Aether, which sometime we may also cover with Swaroop and our other founders of Aether. They were our kids here at some point of time, and now it has grown. So what we see in this entire journey is that there are a lot of talent that need to be nurtured in our country. And once we nurture, there are a lot of original ideas. Once we nurture that properly, I think we get excellent solution. The first thing that struck me when there was the Iran war that happened, I don't know, of course, the shortage is only on the LPG, but I don't know about the petrol and diesel. But immediately I thought, okay, IIT Madras has given some solution to the country in terms of mobility, right? The Aether Energy, which is actually the Aether scooter, which actually works out very nicely today. Some of the latest models are so comfortable. It's almost like you are in a car, and takes you along. At least mobility within a city, I think, is addressed very nicely. So it's very exciting to see how the whole thing unfolds.
It is truly, actually, sir, Aether is amazing, and you've said it perfectly well, that it has addressed, more than addressed actually, the entire idea of communication and journey. But this is something which definitely stood out to me, and you talked about translation and system. So I'd want to start there with you. At the India AI Impact Summit, we saw the classroom lecture, your classroom lecture, being translated instantly using Sarvam AI. Now here's the question. If that begins to scale, are we finally getting to a point where students across India can learn in the language they understand best? And could that open the door to an entirely new wave of talent in this country?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is precisely what we are all aiming to. In this direction, I would also like to point out that somewhere before the AI Impact Summit, we wanted to understand what's happening. The education pre-summit happened on 12th and 13th of February at same Bharat Mandapam in Delhi. This was coordinated by IIT Madras. So last year financial year budget, the Honorable Finance Minister had announced an AI Center of Excellence for Education. Center of Excellence for AI for Education. And this is very much fitting into that banner. And one of the major important deliverable of that is to do the language translation. Right? Language has been a barrier. Today, when we look at, ultimately, in many discussions that we have, some big noble lecture is given by a prof at, say, some part of the world, and it must be, a student in a rural part of India must listen it in the mother tongue, right? And that is something very, very important. And if you carefully, so what are the challenges in this? Since you have opened this topic, a very passionate topic, you should stop me when when the time is up.
So
one thing I would like to say here is when we start teaching science and technology using in the Indian languages, the mother tongue, then what happens is if you translate everything, right, it becomes very confusing.
Yes.
So one of the most important challenges, what are the words that should be retained in English and what should be? So it's almost, if you say Hindi, so it will be Hinglish, right? So right. So a lot of Hindi, but some amount of English. So this colloquial talking, if we may call that, is very, very important, and we have to train the model for that. And that's what we demonstrated with Sarvam that day in the AI Impact Summit.
Did you feel, sir, during your lecture, whatever was the translation which was going on, that the essence of it and the import of it came through? Because I think that is finally the end goal, right? Since you just mentioned that colloquial spoken methodology is a lot more relatable, and that needs to come across to every student probably sitting anywhere in any corner of the country. Did you feel that?
Yes, of course. And that was the reason why we started it. See, for example, we do get students from different parts of India. Some of them in the initial first 2 semesters at IIT will have some language issues. And this language issue, because predominantly we teach in English, right? And the textbooks are also in English. Now, within 1 year, they get out of it. But this first year is very crucial for them because that's the first time they are coming out of home. They are all by themselves. They are free, meaning they have come out from the parent monitoring, right? So they are in the campus now. And this time, and if there is a language barrier, then it's very difficult for them to express themselves or ask doubts. They feel a bit hesitant and shy to ask doubts. And this is something very, very important. And so if you enable this first 2 semesters, then by the 3rd semester, they get used to it. So they make more friends, etc.
Sure.
So this type of translation that we tried and we are going to implement in a big way at IIT Madras to start with and all other IITs is if we can give these lectures in the language that the student wants, they can hear it, then they become more confident to take up the courses and they will do that.
I think that's just the perfect icebreaker, sir. What you just mentioned, I think, is so important. It's such an important soft skill, especially when students are coming in. I, of course, would like to now give a few numbers to the audience which is watching. AATRC vision, here's the vision that sir is talking about. IIT Madras and TIDCO are backing a 200 crore WATRC to turn advanced automotive research into industry ready. So here are the numbers which I'm sharing as far as sir is concerned. Sir, with these numbers, do you feel that this is a great start and it can actually now flow as it starts to kind of develop and move forward? Are you looking at a further expansion? Could you please share how do you want to kind of scale this, phase it?
Yeah, so if you look at a car today, the car itself is a university by itself, right? Because car has so many components, so many engineering disciplines work on it. It's a beautiful example of interdisciplinary work today.
Sure.
Right? And car is also becoming intelligent. It's also connected. right? And so essentially means that you have a very intelligent, creation of mankind that's on the roads and doing some very important activity like mobility, right? And so there are many things in which the car will grow, and we believe that many components over a period of time will become standardized, and each of these there will be multiple vendors who can buy this. For example, if you want to buy a computer today, I can buy a CPU from someone, monitor from someone, mouse from someone, keyboard from someone, and I could have some audio from some speaker I can connect. So you can assemble a system by buying several things off the shelf, right? So like that, I think the days are not quite far off where we can start assembling a car and get the same reliability, right? So this is something where India will go through, and I think we have enough sort of creative ideas in this particular aspect. I think overall, if I start listening to we have a Center for Advanced Automotive Research, the CAR, right, at IIT Madras, which is now tying up with TITCO. And we signed a MOU in the presence of the Honorable Chief Minister, where we are trying to set up a 40,000 square feet area, and we have an investment, as you mentioned, around 200 crores over the next 5 years. Right. But the main issue that we are trying to address there is there are 4 to 5 important things that we would like to touch upon here. First is translational, that many ideas has to become into products, right? So we are looking at, say, some 40 to 50 products in both the electric vehicle and the software-defined vehicle, right? So software-defined vehicle means the software basically controls a lot of things inside the car, right? It adjusts your temperature, it gives you warning, it can adjust your speed, it gives you a lot of driver assistance, etc., etc. So we want to see that at least 40 to 50 products that could actually go on. So original car manufacturers can come and adopt it and take it. And we want to encourage a lot of industries to start making these 40 to 50 products. Fair enough. And that's a very important thing. And there are a lot of startups and MSMEs who are looking at all different aspects of this car. Like, there are many things like, your powertrain, many things that come as a part of your car, this thing. And specifically TV subsystems, you have power subsystems, many things are there. So we want to support at least 200 entities, right? And what do you mean by supporting them? They have certain things, they want to test it before going to the market. So testing, create test beds, create sandboxes itself is something very, very important for them. And that is what this AITRC will try and do. Once we set up these test boxes, essentially that means that product will accelerate much faster, right? As you see, one of the things is that we want to make the time to market, we want to reduce it from 4 to 5 years to less than 3 years. And this is happening because of these test beds. And because of that, there'll be a lot of cost saving that they can do. So this is very, very important. So we want a lot of industries to come. Even for our own startups, one of the important things that we are doing through multiple CSR and other projects at IIT Madras is to create test beds which can help them accelerate the product very quickly and take it forward. And of course, this can create a lot of employment. One thing is training of the skilling of the manpower, etc. And somewhere we should start exporting many of these things. So these are all, and you start making Atmanirbhar designs in India. Of course, the import cost, the duty, everything will reduce, and we'll get more make in India. We will be maximizing the indigenization of the vehicles. So there's an overall perspective by which we have arrived at this AITRC.
Sir, you of course have, the sense I could get, sir, from what you've just given us as an insight, and it's wonderful, it's truly awesome to just see the sheer scale of it and the dream of it come to fruition. But one thing came to my mind. For the longest time, we as a country have had, I wouldn't say a break, but it's been a strange disconnect between academia, government, and industry. The sense I could get from what you were talking about is that you're very seamlessly trying to put everything together for it to just blossom into a wonderful ecosystem as we go along. And we don't have to always have these constant communication breakdowns between three important pillars. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So always, we always started, we have this famous, saying, chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah.
And so many times it's very irritating to me. Say, somebody should define this is chicken, acha, isme anda aa jayega. So next egg will come, right? And we have done that. So I'm very proud to tell you that IIT Madras, for the last 15, 20 years, two directors before me, Professor Anand, Professor Bhaskar, everybody has put this up. And they said, okay, let us now make an environment. Right. See, government can extend policy support.
Right.
Academic institutions must, use the policies that are there to create certain things for, create an environment and nurture entrepreneurship, etc. And the industry has to basically come and start interacting. And unless this whole ecosystem is lucrative,
yes,
or rather than saying lucrative, effective, people are not going to come to this. So what we have, if you ask me, one single mantra is that we created an environment that is, effective for all, that is useful for all. And that's where we are able to bring. So this is an exemplary example of, academia, government, and, industry coming together to make this.
Fabulous. And you said something very powerful, sir, in converting it from the valley of death to the valley of hope, which brings me to this point as well, because I personally feel it's at the heart center of what you've said, which is deep tech. Deep tech in India, what makes you believe that we can win in deep tech when even globally it's actually the hardest game to play? What's your thoughts on that?
See, deep tech needs patience. No, it is not, it is, it is not that, you can get things overnight, right? It needs a lot of patience. Ether Energy took almost a decade to come to this.
True.
Right? So this is a deep tech. It's not just, a soft, company, right? It's very, very deep. If you look at the design of this book. Today, as you mentioned, right, Agni Cool, Galaxy, our Tutor Hyperloop, lab-grown diamonds,
right?
Many things. So, and we have in such companies, right? So we have Detect, we have Planus, we have Plenome, Medibuddy was also GUI, right? The type of things that they are doing, Skillberry, many things. These are all highly deep tech companies, right? It's not just grazing the grass at the surface level. It's very deep root. As I always say, it is as deep rooted as the banyan tree of IIT Madras.
Nice.
Okay. So, right, and all these things needs a lot of patience, and so we are looking at even the thing that we announced. We have announced the IIT Madras Unicorn Frontier Fund 1 of around 600 crores. Again, one of the criteria for us to join with Unicorn was that Unicorn was ready to have this patient capital.
Right.
They put it and wait,
right,
and then it start giving you a lot more dividends. And so with all these companies that you mentioned, right, and I'm seeing their success on a day-to-day. We have the E-plane now growing. We have the Sky glider that is growing. Mobility itself, we have three very interesting solutions today, right? One on the sea, one on the air, and one on the Tutor Hyperloop on the rail, right? At IIT Madras. And this gives me a lot of confidence that things are working and deep tech is very much there in India. We have several semiconductor companies like MindGrow, Incore, many of them that have grown out of IIT Madras. They are doing fantastic now.
Fabulous. So it's true that you said that it does require a lot of patience, definitely, for sure. But do you feel that apart from obviously the patience that is needed, do we need to add something to that so that maybe we are very robust when we attack this entire problem? Is it conviction? Is it capital? Or is it something else that you feel would add to the overall acceleration, if any?
Yeah. So the first few things, we need to have a very strong innovation entrepreneurship stack.
Okay.
If you look at IIT Madras, we have an entrepreneurship cell which will take the idea and convert to a patent. We have Center for Innovation which will convert that patent into a design. We have a reasonably big design, and we have Nirman which will take some of these very good designs and convert it into a prototype or product, right? And then we have several incubators, health technology, cyber physical systems, fintech, bio, many things, sustainability. So many incubators are there. And of course, the mother incubation cell of IIT Madras. And we incubate companies into that. And so a startup. Then we have the Chris Gopalakrishnan Deshpande Center, which will nurture these startups to become unicorns. So all these things are there. And now what we have done as IIT Madras, we have this policy IITM for all. In Tamil, we call it Anaivarukkum IIT Madras, right? So last time we had 103 companies. Coincidentally, 51 were from IIT Madras student founders and 52 were from external others. So any kid who has a brilliant idea can come to IIT Madras. We will help the kid incubate and take it forward, right? So this is also something very, very important for the country. So that is first. And this is, I call it as the Saraswati part, right? Then comes the Lakshmi part, where we know where the money is flowing. Right. And as such, I call it as the Valley of Hope, right? And Valley of Hope today requires anything between 5 crores to 20 crores is the average that we see. And of course, there are companies like Agnikul which will need a lot more than, but that is at a later stage. But it's 5 crore to 20 crore on an average if we are going to be able to support them without much strings attached, right? And with an intention that they will grow. After doing a lot more of due diligence, etc., I think that is extremely needed. And unless that is given, I don't think we can see some great startups. Because everybody may not go through the same struggle, or sometimes it's also luck that matters. It should not be left to a matter of luck. If they perform well, there should be some certainty that they get enough money to scale the Valley of Hope and travel on the Valley of Hope. After that, it's about creating business for them. I think IIT Madras today, we have started IITM Global. And the thing is that we take these startups, all the startups incubated by us, we will take them to the different parts of the world, try to get investment for them, try to get purchase orders for them. And something that, I always say in all my meetings, all my interactions, and I don't want this to be an exception.
Yeah, thank you so much.
For all the big industries, have Atma Vishwas on our startups. Give at least some purchase order, 10 lakh, 50 lakh. Give them the first, like for an artist who sings, the first stage is important. True. For a startup, the first purchase order is important. So I think that will give them motivation and allow them to list your big industry as, in their website as their client. I think the valuation increases.
Oh, for sure.
These type of things we need to do. So if you ask me this question, all these things matter for the startups to grow.
And I think finally, sir, what you just mentioned was so true. And I, of course, implore people and request them very humbly to please listen to sir here. I think it is one of the biggest motivations for anybody who is just starting out and realizing their dreams. It is that support which encourages everyone. Of course, sir, now I want to talk to you about the aspect as far as India ranks far below the United States, China in AI research with only about 1.4% paper contribution to conferences. What are your thoughts on that?
See, India is the largest generator of data.
Yep.
And we have 100 crore users. So India will be the largest consumer, and each of 100 crore smartphone users. So India will be the largest consumer of AI applications. Sure. Because AI applications, the final manifestation, biggest manifestation will come out of this.
Sure.
In terms of paper, I also feel, impactful work that will impact millions. That comes out of frugal AI, right? And I also believe that if you work in a resource constrained environment, you come out with optimal solutions. If you have a lot of resources, you come out with a solution, but it need not be necessarily optimal.
Sure.
When you work with resource constraint, for example, today we have limited access to GPUs because as a country we need several things. So many small colleges, universities around ask for GPU. We don't have that much here.
Yeah.
At IIT Madras also. Globally also, there is not just a GPU crisis, there's energy crisis also. Now, as a country, we need to give a lot more power to farmers, right? First, they have to generate food for us to eat. AI is not going to feed our stomach, okay? Then comes the AI. So, down the line, the energy crisis is going to be phenomenal, big.
Yeah.
Right? So those things we need to look. And this GPU crisis that we have currently, whatever we are trying to address it in some way, but also is making us start thinking about a life after GPU, life of AI after GPU. So we look at normal laptops, desktops, and see how do we fine tune it? How do we get certain software environment on top of it so that I could at least inference. See, if you look at AI, there is something called training the model. There's something called inferencing. At least inferencing can I do without the GPU? So these type of questions are coming up, and we are seeing exciting solutions. So a very optimal, sustainable, effective solutions of AI will come out of Bharat. I have no doubt about it. You can take me now.
That's so encouraging. Would you see an Nvidia or an OpenAI or maybe something bigger coming out of India?
Because so we are already seeing Sarvam and Bharatjan.
Fabulous.
Two models that so for Sarvam we made this demonstration of language translation. And we have 12 languages in which it translates.
Right.
It's not I think nowhere in the world we'll have such type of a challenge and a solution. So that's a beginning or tip of the iceberg. We'll see a lot more for it to come. And we will use it for purposes for which it is needed. See, the moment you have resource constraint, you will carefully use it.
Yes.
By that, this misuse will also come down, hopefully.
Fair enough. Two things, sir, very quickly that I would like for you to please address. What is it that excites Dr. Kamakoti? Is it quantum communication? Is it, let's say...
Oh, for me, but the thing that excites me and still continues to excite me is the Shakti processor, of course, that we are doing. We want to do the next generation processor.
Right.
See, ultimately, you need microprocessors and related hardware to execute all your AI, everything involved.
True.
Okay, so that is... So, making it Atmanirbhar and India having, Bharat having her own microprocessor which will suit all the needs, starting from very small, tiny IoTs to large server, was the dream. And we are working on that dream. We have several startups which are now trying to take this and go forward. And down the line, we want to make a server that is made out of India's processors, right? So this is something very exciting and it's very fundamental. Right? Anything like this computer through which we both are conversing.
Sure.
Just look at this environment from IIT Madras to your studio. You will have hundreds of microprocessors that is enabling this.
True.
Right? So that's the most exciting part for me. The other thing is, of course, we are now trying to get lot more of patenting, lot more of startups, lot more of things, and this startup entrepreneurship culture must grow. And already I'm seeing 20% of my students now saying, I would like to be an entrepreneur. A failed entrepreneur is a better entry in the biodata rather than a 1.5 crore per year salary. These type of attitudes are coming in the kids, and that is very, very important for Vikshit Bharat 2047, because we want to become a product nation at that point of time. So this is extremely, extremely crucial and important.
Sir, I just very quickly want your thoughts on this fact that the startup ecosystem, although it's extremely crucial and very important, as you mentioned, that there are a lot of young minds which are wanting to actually go down that road, which is fabulously aspirational. But I'm sure you've noticed the fact that there is a decrease as far as the funding is concerned in the startup ecosystem. So when somebody comes up to you, what would you feel you'd like to tell them instead of them feeling discouraged? Because there is a slight maybe slowdown as far as the startup ecosystem is concerned. What do you have to say to that?
Any startup that is very serious and working on a state-of-the-art problem, I don't think, Sandeep, there'll be a problem in their funding.
Okay.
Deep tech, it must address the fundamental problem. So again, the constraint in the amount of fund available, I don't think that is a big one now, but we do have enough access to funds. Many of the startups, all the startups that are, I have a tick mark saying, hey, this is great now. I see them within 2 months getting some very good funding.
Okay.
So this is happening. So, but they should address a fundamental problem that we would like. Say, for example, Agni.
Yeah, right? I would request you if you could guide us.
We need, there is some statistics which says I need 1.2 lakh low Earth orbit satellites in the next 5 years.
Sure.
That means it is 25,000 satellites per year. Divided by 300, it's 80 satellites per day. Divided by 24 satellites per hour. So one satellite to be going up on an average every 15 minutes.
Right.
Now, where are the rocket engines?
Yes.
If you want to make a rocket engine, it takes three months. There are some 3,000 plus soldering joints. Some joint goes fut, the whole thing bursts. Okay. The mission can be a failure. Right? Now, in this context, now Agnikul can print a 3D print a rocket engine in 72 hours. Fair. Right? So, from 3 months, you're bringing it. So, this is a high impact.
Brilliant.
They have to succeed.
Sure.
Right? We put all the efforts for them to succeed. They don't, then it's a big loss for our nation. Right? So, they will succeed. And we are putting that. So, like that, every company that we are trying to promote, right? And not just IIT Madras, every IIT we see from IIT Bombay, that's a big company on cancer cure.
Right.
So IIT Delhi, we see a lot of companies coming on pollution control, etc. Very, very practical solutions. And these companies get funded. And so if you have limited resources in funding, the best will survive and go up. And so that's also good in some sense.
The cream will come to the top. I, of course, have to obviously, sir, request you in conclusion. This is my final question to you. If a 19-year-old student is watching this, sitting in a very small town, maybe in their mother tongue, they're watching this conversation, what would you tell them about building the future from India?
First and foremost, identify what you like and pursue that area. It's theorem number 1. And I always tell all the parents, once the kid is born, the kid has its own brain. They have their own likes, dislikes. The first advice is identify what you want to do in life and pursue that with full passion. And number 1. And number 2, today, India needs patriots. India needs people who work in deep technologies. India needs persons who are also very great philosophers also, right? For example, we have to look at ethical AI, etc. So every field, there will be a future, provided you become good in that field.
Nice.
So that is the proverb, right? If you are a cobbler, be the best cobbler. Right? I aim to become the best in that field that you like. So to put it short, identify the field that you want to work on and become the best in that, aspire to become the best in that field.
Beautifully said. Sir, all I can say to you is with a lot of humility and with a lot of respect, you're doing something which I believe is building the future of the country. Namaskar, sir. Thank you so much for being on Front Page. It's been a true honor. And I really wish everything that you have been seeding goes through such amazing sense of growth, because with leaders like you, I don't think there is even any doubt when I say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. True honor on Front Page to have Dr. Kamakoti with us. And I think everything that he said has had so many takeaways and impacts as far as I'm concerned. But as always, we will sum up with the Front Page take. The future does not have to be imported, can be imagined right here, built right here, and scaled from here. With institutions like IIT Madras and mentors and guides like Dr. Kamakoti, showing a new generation that India is not just where talent comes from, but where the future can be built again and again and again. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM.